Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt, joined by United States Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning, Senator. Welcome back.
Hey, Hugh. Good morning. It's good to be back on with you.
Your reaction to the Durham report?
Well, the Durham report, I think, confirmed most of what we already knew or strongly suspected, that the FBI and the Department of Justice in 2016 applied very different standards to the Clinton campaign and to the Trump campaign. And they continued on this baseless witch hunt against President Trump and associates from his campaign on information that they knew to be unreliable and in some cases planted by political operatives. There has not yet been sufficient accountability for the FBI and the Department of Justice because of these failures and this misconduct. You know, in the Trump era, a few were dismissed. Some of them in the Biden era have even been reinstated or had their dismissals upgraded. There needs to be that kind of accountability for the American people to have confidence in the FBI, especially its senior leadership.
Now, Senator Cotton, you're on Judiciary. I believe you have oversight of DOJ and FBI, correct?
Yes, we did, Hugh.
So I have analogized the Bureau to a Superfund site, and Molly Hemingway loves it, so I'm going to test it out on you. I don't think remediation has begun. They put someone in charge of Superfund site, and that's Director Wray, but I don't know that the remediation has begun beyond moving Stroke and Page out.
I think that's about right, Hugh. That's about all the accountability that there was. Aside from Donald Trump removing Jim Comey, my main complaint about President Trump's dismissal of Jim Comey is it happened 5 months too late. He should have done it on his very first day in office because Director Comey had lost the confidence of the American people going back to the summer and the fall of 2016. Lisa Page and Peter Strzok are examples of people who were removed under the Trump era, along with Andy McCabe. But again, some of their dismissals have been upgraded. There needs to be accountability for the people at the department and the FBI who engaged in this misconduct. This doesn't touch on the vast majority of FBI agents, many of whom I know, I crossed paths with in school, the Army, or I've worked with in Arkansas. Those agents are patriotic. They're dedicated professionals. Many of them have told me they are appalled by what people like Jim Comey and Andy McCabe and Lisa Page and Peter Strzok did and the discredit it brought to the Bureau. Christopher Wray has not sufficiently held the senior leadership of the FBI to account. And, of course, there are still officials in the Department of Justice outside the FBI who have not been held to account.
No, Senator Cotton, I haven't read the Durham report yet. I've read all the news reports, and nobody answered my question. Maybe you know. Did Durham call to task the Mueller investigation, either Special Counsel Mueller or Deputy Counsel Weinsman or excuse me, any of those people, because they obviously missed this whole thing. The Mueller report, 2 volumes of it, did not discover this. I think I'm completely correct about that, but did the Durham report call out the Mueller report?
Hugh, I'm still working my way through it as well, so I can't give you a definitive answer. If he didn't call them out, I think in part maybe because it was beyond the scope of his review. But the Mueller investigation should have never been created in the first place. The FBI and the Department of Justice knew at the time Director Mueller was appointed as special counsel that the so-called Steele dossier was nothing but Clinton campaign lies. There was nothing to investigate. Many people were charged with offenses that were purely process offenses based on their own witch hunt against Donald Trump and everyone that was associated with him. That was a direct result, again, of dismissing Jim Comey. That's why I wish Donald Trump had done it on day one in his in office, just based on the loss of credibility that Jim Comey had suffered in 2016. But there's no question that the Mueller investigation was both needless and it was specifically designed to try to upend the Trump presidency from the very beginning, which it deeply, deeply interfered with for almost 2 years.
Now, Senator, I know you didn't watch the CNN town hall last week. We've talked about that already. But in the post games that have gone on for a week, there has been a complete display of contempt for the audience. It was a Republican audience, as it was agreed to be a Republican audience, because Republican primaries are for Republican voters. But the legacy media just hates that audience. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah, of course, Hugh. And you can see the contempt that traditional liberal media show for Republican voters, and that Republican audience is kind of a microcosm of it. Just look at debate questions over the years, Hugh. they don't take the point of view of a center-right Republican primary voter. They take the point of view of a left liberal journalist, or in some cases activist. I mean, I think most notoriously when George Stephanopoulos asked Mitt Romney about banning birth control or some such question in 2012. Not something that was on the mind at all of Republican primary voters in 2012, but something that the Obama campaign wanted to falsely accuse the Romney campaign and other Republicans of pursuing. Hugh, this is one reason why the RNC wanted to take a stronger hand in who's going to be moderating this question. You don't expect people to ask softballs or layups of presidential candidates, but you do expect them to express the perspective of a Republican primary voter who has questions about individual candidates. And, Hugh, I think the contrast was stark in the clips I've seen since last week in that CNN town hall. You had a CNN reporter who kept asking about all the hair on fire, democracy dies in darkness type stuff of Donald Trump that the press has asked him about for 8 years. And then you had Republican primary voters asking simple questions like, why didn't you finish the wall? Or what should we do about China? These are the things that normal Americans who are traditional Republican primary voters care about.
Let's go to the wall, Senator. The rate of immigration of migrants without permission entering the country in the last full fiscal year of Donald Trump was under 500,000. Last year, it was 2.5 million. This year, it's going to be 4 million. I don't know how anyone looks at this and says it's other than a disaster for everyone involved. The migrants, the border towns, the rest of the country. Yet Secretary Mayorkas says they got a plan. What do you say to him? I mean, it's just so absurd.
Hugh, their only plan is to process these illegal aliens more promptly. You know, they made a show of deploying 1,500 soldiers to the border a week ago. Those soldiers are not going there to defend our border, to protect it from a de facto invasion. They're going to help expedite the paperwork so illegal aliens can enter our country more effectively. You know, Secretary Mayorkas broadcast and celebrated an app that the Department of Homeland Security has created. That app, again, is to help illegal aliens with no justifiable claim to enter our country to enter it more quickly. You know, I've heard some Democrats claiming, well, we need some kind of immigration reform bill, you know, border security and asylum reform, and, you know, we've got to get protections for the dreamers as well. Well, first off, their border security, Hugh, I promise you, is not going to be actual border security. Their version of asylum reform would simply be institutionalizing and legislating the ollie oxen approach to asylum that the Biden administration has implemented. And finally, they say, well, we've got to get something in return. No, the Democrats have gotten what they wanted already. They've gotten 6 million new illegal aliens in this country in the last 2.5 years.
So the question becomes, what is going to happen? Denver Mayor Michael Hancock, I'm going to play cut number 6 to the studio. He is a Democrat. And like Kathy Hochul, another Democrat, he said, we're all Phil at the inn. Cut number 6 for Senator Cotton.
You know, we are seeing a bit of a lull, if you will, in the number of migrants that are coming into Denver, at least in the last 3 or 4 days of the week and then through the weekend. But on last Tuesday, we hit a epic number. Close to 400 came through the city of Denver, again, creating a need for me as the mayor to reactivate the Emergency Operations Center and to begin to put our agencies on notice and to engage everyone in our efforts to try to continue to provide the best care we can for the migrants who've come to our city.
So Senator Cotton, 400 people has got the mayor of Denver reeling. 10,000 people a day came in last week. What do you think? Where are they going?
So Hugh, I'm reminded of a trip I took to the border in the early days of the Biden administration. You know, not last month, but, you know, in the spring of 2021. And they were doing the dog and pony show for a lot of senators. I grabbed a Border Patrol agent who spoke Spanish, and we kind of walked around the side and talked to a lot of these migrants who were huddled underneath the bridge at night. And I just asked them questions about, you know, where were they from and how did they get here and how long did it take and why did they come? And not a single one of them said, oh, I was being persecuted because of my Christian faith, or my child was being threatened with blackmail and violence by a drug cartel. Every single one of them said something like, to get a job, or because I can get in, or most simply, Joe Biden. They're coming because they know they can get in. And where are they going to go? Well, a lot of them are going to end up going to big cities that already have large migrant populations. That's just the nature of immigrant flows, Hugh. You know, people come here and they go to Denver, they go to New York, they go to Dallas, they go to Phoenix, and they send word back home, you know, via text messages or DMs on social media and say, hey, you can get in and there's work here in this town. So they're going to scatter everywhere, but it's not surprising they're going to be concentrated in larger cities given traditional migrant flows. And Hugh, you're going to see more of these liberal mayors like Eric Adams in New York get exasperated with the Biden administration because that's where the rubber hits the road. Whatever their left-wing ideology, when they've got hundreds or thousands of migrants coming in every week to their country, they've got housing problems. They've got public service problems like schools and hospitals. They've got crime and drug problems. Joe Biden may not have to deal with that ensconced in the White House, but mayors in places like New York, like Denver, and of course like El Paso do have to deal with it.
Senator Tom Cotton, always good to talk to you. I know you're one of our leading immigration hawks, and I know that you'll be involved in any conversations about immigration. John Cornyn coming up after the break. Thank you, Senator Cotton.